Okay, Trevor. I'm back again. This is part 2 of the letter I sent you this morning. Uh, I'm looking for a settlement. I'm looking to get out of this. Uh, I want to start out this part with a letter that was sent to me 7.5 years ago. Uh, I think I left off on my last video where I said you were running the bill up on me. Every phone call, every letter you send is a monetary penalty on me. Well, here's a monetary penalty. Maybe you can figure out what kind of a monetary penalty was judged against me. This letter was 11/20/2016. This letter is came along after a young policeman visited my house because Charlie Waters called up the Buckeye Police and told them I was basically assaulting him every time that I was looking him out, that I was searching him out, and I was going after him, harassing him. Nothing could be further from the truth. It never happened. But Charlie Waters has juice. He was the mayor's campaign manager on his third election, third time he won. And the second time he won, Charlie Waters made a name for himself with Jackie Meck with all the support he gave him. But this letter right here, right now, how do you put a monetary value on how much I've lost or what I lost? Right here. Okay? On November 7th, at the board workshop, you became verbally combative with board members. This is not the first occurrence of this nature. The association has previously sent a letter regarding the intentions to restrict access to the association's amenity upon reoccurrence of the behavior. In accordance with the association documents and the code of conduct policy which governs staff and members of the community, your amenity access has been restricted to the next 30 days. Further occurrences during that period will lengthen the restriction period. Sincerely, Caroline Clinton. Now I'm going to stop. I had no hearing. I had no idea that I was going to be kicked out until I was kicked out. And I've been kicked out for 7.5 years. During that 7.5 years, about 5 of that 7.5 years, I was paying dues on 2 houses. And for about 2.5 years now, of that 7.5, I've been paying dues on 1 house. Okay? With no hearing. And no substantiation. When she says you were verbally combative, that's it. No hearing. No substantiating this charge of combative. And she references an earlier date where I went to another board meeting, the Christmas board meeting of about 2015. It was right after I got a letter. I went through the motions of getting approval to put gutters on my house. Went in, Caroline helped me out. She didn't know that I was public enemy number 1 in this HOA. Nobody told her about me, so she was gracious. She couldn't have been more helpful to me. If I were to give a feedback on that day, it would be a 5-star feedback, the way she treated me. I haven't seen that since in years. Okay? I feel that Caroline Clinton's job depends on her being an adversarial relationship with me. Any leniency toward me or any understanding of me or any empathizing with me would mean instant discharge from the Sundance HOA, okay, for Caroline Clinton. So I know where she's coming from. I understand it. I don't hold it against her. I'm not taking it personal. She's trying to hold on to her job. Basically, I heard Charlie Waters threaten her at a meeting one day. The last meeting I went to, David Stump was given the floor in this meeting, and he reported that as the architectural committeeman, that the reports from AAM with the numbers for the budgets every year get sent to him. And he more or less boasted, bragged, whatever, said that I take these numbers that come from AAN and I work on them to make them more digestible and understandable to the people, the members of our Sundance community here in Buckeye. He more or less said, I alter the numbers or I play with the numbers to where they're digestible by our membership. And I saw Charlie Waters look directly at Caroline Clinton across the table from him after that little speech by David. And he looked at Caroline and he says, if he can do this for us, why are we paying you? I heard it. So Caroline gets reminded every time she goes into a meeting that you can be replaced. Now, she sent out this letter to me. She pulled my key card, and I've paid now probably in the last 7 years over $10,000 maybe. Well, no, since I sold my other house. I sold my other house in 13. So for 11 years, I paid dues on 2 houses. For 11 years, I paid dues for 9.5 years on 2 houses, and about 2 years into that is when she kicked me out of the HOA. So I've been kicked out of the HOA for 7.5 years. And I've been faithfully paying dues. I've been getting nothing for my dues. For you to tell me that I should pay your legal fees. And another thing I want to get to is the fact I've sent you letters, I've sent you the permit, I sent you the master plans for the CC&R master plans for the grading for the community. My house, it's no secret, was built 2.5 inches low. On purpose. Track day was filled in. I'm damaged goods. I've been brainwashed by the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years during Vietnam. I never made it to Vietnam. I made it to Japan. And I sit there in Japan and watched every squadron from Nam get pulled back to Japan. So I lived with these people day in and day out, all these Vietnam veterans. Even though I wasn't one, I'd been in Japan. I lived it. I know the culture. I know everybody's motivation at the time. And I'll tell you what, in 1970, my whole enlistment, nobody was waving the flag. I got drafted right after Tet by my hometown, a small town that resembles Buckeye so much it isn't funny because everybody knows everybody. Everybody grew up together. the town is made up of a tapestry of DNA that goes back sometimes 50, 100 years, of cousins, aunts. The nepotism, it reeks of nepotism. Okay? Familiarity. Well, I got drafted by that town, and I got drafted twice by this town, Buckeye. When I bought this house, I was a California investor. From what I hear, all the people in Buckeye had bids on this lot. When they put these lots on the market, they raised the price $10,000 from the earlier houses on the golf course. And everybody bought. All your Midwest buyers got sticker shocked at that $10,000 increase. So they put bids in on these lots at the old price, thinking that eventually Meritage has to come to the reality they're never going to sell them at this price. Well, they did. I came in at the price that they gave me, $25,000 a lot, and I paid the price. I've had nothing but trouble ever since. The cronies that run Buckeye, the people that run Buckeye, the cowboys that run Buckeye, and I could go on with cowboy stories in my past. I never got along with cowboys. When I was in the Marine Corps, I stayed away from cowboys. I tried to stay away from people who were from Texas. Okay? These cowboys, and when I was in the airline industry, I ran into cowboys. Okay? Cowboys are like out here in Buckeye, everything's a simple answer. Now I'm going to get back to your letter from yesterday. You're saying that it's not that complicated. All I have to do is remove the sandbags and plant a tree in my front yard, and I'll be all set with the HOA. It's not that simple. I happen to have the grading plans and the utility plans for the front 9. I also have all the plat maps for all the parcels on the front 9. I sold real estate in 1978. I took a 90-hour course in real estate in 1978. I learned a lot about easements. I learned a lot about real estate rules. And back in 1978, a lot was said about ethics. Ethical way of doing things. Ethics, ethics, ethics. It was drilled into my training in Seattle with both of the real estate agents that I worked for. I worked for 2 different companies. One was a starter company. We had a 9 o'clock meeting every morning. We had to preview houses every day. They spoon-fed the business to you. Then I went from the starter store to another real estate agent that was established with a lot of really good long-term professional realtors. And I learned from them. Now, what I'm trying to get to is I got drafted out here 19 years ago to be a subject of my neighbors. I've been paying tribute to the people on both sides of Tract A. We had one group the first group was from Fremont, Nebraska, and someplace in Colorado. They were both snowbirds, and Tract A was taken out of service and given to them forever and ever about 20 years ago as a view easement. All the water that watered the plants was paid by the membership. Whenever the plants were trimmed, they were paid by the membership. And the membership, another thing that we paid was we paid tribute in the form of not having Tract A available to us for our golf carts and emergency vehicles in and out of the parcel. I was drafted twice. I was drafted in 1978 by a bunch of cronies in a little town made up of lodge brothers, businessmen, car salesmen, whatever you want, that were on the draft board. The draft board here in Buckeye, 56 years later, it's 56 years later now, and I'm a victim of the draft that happened 20 years ago here in Buckeye. They drafted my house by lowering it 2.5 inches. They drafted my lot by putting a berm across it and raising my property line. I had a surveyor with 35 years experience tell me, they made you it. The golf course is storing water under your house, under your lot. Tribal knowledge. Tribal knowledge on any golf course is the golf course, when they build the golf course, they build it not to drain. So they build it for the houses not to drain on the golf course. The golf course and the plans, when the engineers were drawing up the plans years ago, the plan was that the golf course is going to be the sacrificial skid plate in a storm. It's a recreational area. There's no houses down there. There's nobody living there. So any excess water or any flooding water from any neighborhood will flow automatically onto the golf course in any storm, monsoon storm. Tract A was designated as a drain in our neighborhood, also a golf cart access easement, a pedestrian access easement, a maintenance vehicle access easement, and the highest and best of that Tract A, highest and best use would be for emergency EMT vehicles, emergency rescue, emergency fire and rescue vehicles. That was all taken away by graft. What I call reverse engineering. Reverse engineering, as they applied it to all these lots north of the lake, is they made the lot line 3 feet high. In my case, they even lowered my house 2.5 inches. Now, to tell me that statute of limitations protects the builder in the town of Buckeye from correcting my house because it's been 2 years, well, this is something I can't correct. I pay a sewer bill every month. There's a sewer item on my utility bill every month to the city of Buckeye that says a sewer fee. I'm paying a sewer fee on sewer pipes that were intentionally, by the town of Buckeye and the builder 20 years ago, lowered out of compliance. My sewer pipes have been tampered with. And because I worked on airplanes for 30 years, I never, it's hard to break old habits. I am never going to sell this house to anyone without telling them what the town of Buckeye did and the builder did. No realtor will allow me to put that statement of what town of Buckeye did by lowering my finished floor elevation. They won't let me talk about it. They won't let me put it on a listing. No realtor will list my house in Buckeye. Not only do I have to tell them that the house was built 2.5 inches low, which is a permanent encumbrance on my house. It's a monetary penalty on my house. If anybody watches any of my videos, I've been trying to sell my house since 2014. For 10 years, I had, in that period of time, several times I tried to sell my house. I had signs on the front yard, signs on the golf course, and whenever anybody excited, a realtor or for sale by owner buyer came in, I had to tell them, your sewer pipes are out of compliance. They literally degraded the sewer pipes to the street. you're going to lose every turd race that they have up here. When you flush your toilets, your turds get to lose the race going to the center, the sewer pipe down the street. Now, I've been burdened with this. I also have PTSD from being drafted in the Marine Corps. Being drafted, I joined the Marine Corps. After being drafted, my choice was either go in the Army for 2 years, have a chance at being drafted by the Marines once I got to Albany, New York for 2 years, or join the Marine Corps Air Wing for 4 years. So I doubled my patriotism and I joined the Marine Corps Air Wing for 4 years. That put me on a schedule of about 2 years, almost 2 years of classroom training on the radar and missile system for the F-4. And when I wasn't in class, I was on either mess duty or guard duty. Now, how do we put a monetary value on what I've lost here? On this tribute. I haven't had track day available to me for 19 years. If I buy a golf cart, which I never did because they filled up track day, if they hadn't filled up track day, probably the first investments I would have bought was a golf cart, like everybody else here that plays golf. I expected that I was, as a baby boomer, retired aircraft worker, licensed by the FAA, that I was going to play golf when I retired for the rest of my life, every day. And I expected to have track day 45 feet from my house available to me. It hasn't been. I've been paying tribute on it to some Midwestern, I call them the core of Trumpism. These Midwesterners that got out here 20 years ago were disciples of Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. These are bucolic simpletons from the Midwest that thought that it'd be a perfectly all right to come and take track day out of service for the rest of us. That we're going to bring our farm with us. We have needs because we're Midwest buyers that grew up on a farm and we're not really educated to city urban ways. We think we should be able to bring our farm with us. We don't have golf carts going by our patios back on the farm in Wisconsin or Nebraska or Minnesota or places like that. We don't want to see golf carts going by our patio here. Now, like I said, you haven't done much. One thing I want to bring up in this video is you haven't done much with this lawsuit. I feel, Trevor, that you inherited this 3-year-old lawsuit in January. And you had to make it go. Even though you didn't come out and inspect my yard to see if everything was there, especially the lighthouse. You generated a lawsuit in January of 24 that went back 3 years. The pictures you have are 3 years old. Everything is 3 years old. And every letter that was sent to me was sent for 52 cents. I've been scrambling. My house is upside down. You haven't done a thing. This lawsuit, you haven't touched it or done anything or done any more on it since it was filed with the court in January. All you do is copy and print from a computer. That paper bundle I got a couple of days ago that I haven't made one yet. This is one where you had all your witnesses and the whole case against me. Nothing had changed. It's a duplicate. It's a carbon copy of the lawsuit that you filed in January. Nothing. You haven't done anything. You went home every day. We had a hearing with the judge, and the judge, I feel that when you filed the lawsuit, you have a history on all the judges who deal with cases like this. And I feel that in order to win, that you probably routed this case to a judge who was sympathetic with you, or a judge who played hardball with the statute of limitations. And you're trying to pass off on to me now this loss that I took on my house. This is a real loss. I can't sell my house honestly without taking a huge financial penalty. I can't send it, and because Tract A isn't available to us, that's another financial penalty. If Tract A was open to golf carts and my house was built correctly, it would have been sold 10 years ago. I've had to sit on this house for 10 years and take letter after letter of abuse from the HOA. Now, the big sticking point for me is paying you. Every time you talk to me on the phone, every time you write me a letter, every time that you have to do something for the HOA, there's a dollar amount attached to it. If you talk to me on the phone, you probably record how many minutes, and it's added up. My time is worth $300 or $400 an hour. So every time I talk to you or send you a letter, I have to re-up the fine or the penalty or my fees. Now, how do I account for the monies I've invested? First of all, I put $15,000 of solar on the house. Am I going to get paid for that? I put a ventilation attic system in the garage attic with a fan, a thermostat fan. I had to cut a hole in the ceiling. I had to install electric. Am I going to get paid for that? That's an extra. I put gutters on the house. When I found out that you were using, when the surveyor told me you were using my yard to store water underground, the reverse engineering, all those houses above the golf course that are supposed to have water run onto the golf course, we're going to reverse engineer them. We're going to keep the water up on the lots. I found this out. I've been an electrical engineer or electrical engineer equivalent since 1972. I worked on airplanes for United, America West, US Air, as an avionics specialist. So I was always working with electricity and ways of doing things. What was done over here to Tract A 20 years ago was what we call in the airline business a cob job. They cobbled something together to make it work for these Midwest investors who didn't want to share this urban community. This was an urban plan that came out of Phoenix 25 years ago. Urban. And in the language of all the documents. You see, the reason I know all this is because an airplane mechanic, all they do is read documents. That's all they do. Whenever there's a problem on an airplane, the first thing you do before you go out is you go onto the computer and you look up any history. Anything that's been worked on in the past couple of years is going to be in a computer history. So I can go back, I can pull up and I say, how many times has this been faulted? And if there's a lot of history, now you start reading. You go, it could be a real problem. And for us, we had 4 or 5 documents that assisted us. We had like the description and operation manual. We had the maintenance manual. We had the parts manual. We had wiring diagram manuals. We had practices manual. How do you fix wires? Wiring practices manuals. Tell you how, if you found a bad wire, how to fix it. Everything was a manual. And I spent 30 years reading mostly manuals. There's no way you can keep all this information in your head. You might be, your airline might have 6 different airplanes, 6 different fleets. And all these, within that fleet, say 737, many of the airplanes were bought somewhere else. They weren't one part of a big order. So all the planes have different part numbers for everything. Not only when you order a part for a plane, you have to go to the IPC, Illustrated Parts Reference Manual, to make sure you don't put the wrong part number on a plane that you think is a twin to, it isn't. Before you can install a part on the plane, you have to go to the Illustrated Parts Manual to make sure that that plane's serial number, its nose number, agrees with the part you're going to put on it. Now, I've done that for 30 years, so that when Woody Scouten wrote a letter, and I got a letter from Pat Pence Young that Track Day was a drain, I started reading manuals. I went and got the plat maps for all the front 9, for all the parcels. I read the provisions for every tract, drainage tract, and every plat map. They all are similar language. No plants, no vegetation within the tract. The tract has to drain. The tract is an access easement. It has to be available to maintenance, golf carts, and emergency vehicles. Track Day was none of that. Track Day was, for me, a charge of tribute. Until they dug it out in 2013, I paid tribute. Like everybody else. And I never bought a golf cart. If I would have bought a golf cart, and I would have used the tribal knowledge where I have to go out to Sundance Parkway and go down to the 7th tee box and use the public easement to get on the golf cart course, I didn't do it. When I saw that tract was plugged up, I turned the other cheek. I had 3 houses. One was bought outright. I owned it. The other 2 I had mortgages on. I didn't have time to pursue Track Day. I wrote it off as a loss. And then to like 9 or 10 years later, through due diligence and research and luck, to find out that when they issued the permit to build my house, that the builder Meritage had tampered with the finished floor elevation. The note on the front of the map, the grading map for parcel 12, are all of the Sundance. There was a note on the front. Any finished floor elevation that has been calculated can't be touched. When they filled in Track Day, they destroyed the secondary drain in this neighborhood. They made it an easement for, like I said, the disciples of Donald Trump from the Midwest. I consider this, what they did to me, is racial profiling. Racial profiling. I came from California. I wasn't a local. I didn't grow up with the cowboys. My last name sounded like it was a foreign name. Okay? I wasn't one of them. I was considered a person of color. Or California, no different. California investor, a person of color, somebody that was going to poison the bloodline. They did some social engineering out here 20 years ago. It's called graft. Graft is when you take a public easement that is for everybody and you privatize it. That's exactly what happened. And I've been paying tribute to that for 19 years. So when you tell me I have to be paid for all the letters and phone calls and everything I've made to you during this lawsuit, and I haven't done a thing. For the last 3 months, my house has been upside down. I got paperwork everywhere. I wasn't educated as a lawyer. I know nothing about court. I don't even know where the courthouse is. I resent the fact that at 75 and a half, I'm 3 weeks older than King Charles. Would you do this to him? I've got a cataract. I have panic attacks out on the road. I don't like driving. And since I've retired, cell phone use has gone through the ceiling. At least when I was driving before commuting, when I worked for United Airlines in the Bay Area and I commuted 40 miles each way every day, at least people didn't have cell phones that they were looking at while they were driving. Right now it drives me crazy when a young lady goes by me at 75 miles an hour. I'm doing the speed limit. She goes by at 75 and she's reading her cell phone. Okay? Now, let's get down. I want to settle this. And I don't want to flatten that corner until somebody from the HOA or civil engineering or you come out here and look at me straight in the face and say that I think your lot is fine. I want you to take a look at track day. I want you to look at that Grand Canyon at the end of track day that I sent you a video on a couple days ago. And I want you to look at me square in the eye and tell me that I should pay your lawyer fees. I put gutters on my house when I found out what they did. I've also got solar panels on my house. I went out and I rented a tractor, jackhammers. On several occasions, I had to rent jackhammers. I rented a tractor. I hired a contractor, paid him over $3,000 to haul off yards and yards of dirt off my lot that was a berm between me and my property line. Now, how do you put a monetary figure on that? How do you put a monetary figure on the fact that I'd be out of here? Buckeye to me is a cowboy town of MAGA Republicans. I think once you pass Litchfield Road, you're in a whole different world out here. My neighbors see me as somebody that came off a poster in the post office. My neighbor even told the policeman when I called the police, she went over and she goes, I bet you see that guy's face on a post office wall. That's their opinion of me. I don't talk to my neighbors. I don't leave the house. I'm like Howard Hughes. I'm in a house right now that's filled with piles of paperwork. And I've been busting my butt for the last 2 or 3 months trying to figure out what to send, what the judge And when I talk to the judge and he tells me we're not looking at anything except at what's on this lawsuit, we want to take one little time slot out of 19 years and prosecute you on one little time slot. We don't want to look at statute of limitations. We don't want to know that they drafted you years ago, 20 years ago, to be the chump, the patsy, the sucker, the fool. That's what I feel like. And because I've been brainwashed by the military, I know what military chicken shit is. You've got some really flawed egos on that board. And on the board, there isn't one person on the board that will come out and look me in the eye and tell me that I'm not being assaulted every day by the tee box that's put on the back corner 40 yards from my house. I'm downrange and in range and just offline from some of the worst mediocre golfers on the planet that go through here. And the pros we have in the pro shop are giggling like little girls when they put that tee box back there, knowing that he's going to get hit by a golf ball. We've got a proxy assault going on here. What's so beautiful about it is it's totally random. We don't know when the next golfer is going to break his window. He doesn't know. But when it happens, no matter how many balls the golfer hit before he broke the window, we're going to tell the member whose window got broke that it was an accident, it was unintentional, and you have no recourse or remedy. You're going to have to eat it. I made a video on the two different golf cards. The first golf card they had when I moved here, the golf card said on it that all golfers are responsible for property damage and personal injury. When they sold the golf course, or the dummy sale, it was a sale on paper so that they could change the golf card. They did a sale on paper so that they could justify telling everybody that we don't own the golf course anymore. Sundance Active Adult does not have anything to do with the golf course. It was sold. It wasn't sold. It was smoke and mirrors. We have to change the golf card. And what they changed the golf card to, these amateur pros out here, these amateur pros with no imagination, these amateur child adolescent pros that when you complain about being walked on, you complain about having to pay tribute to the golf course. The golf course, I share ownership of my lot with the golf course. They own my lot. The golf course owns my lot. I paid for it. I paid taxes on it. I paid dues on it. But the golf course owns it as an out-of-bounds territory. They own it as foul ball territory. We don't need a foul ball territory on our golf course. We don't need out-of-bounds on our golf course. We have an out-of-bounds. It's going to be the members' lots. We're going to play the golf course right up to every member's lot. And we're going to set the tee boxes up that any kind of a misstep, mishap, any kind of a mistake by any golfer is sure to put a golf ball in his yard. Now, the only way we're going to settle this, Trevor, if you're still with me, and I don't even think you watch these videos, that's okay. At least I sent them public. The public knows about it. I don't think I should pay a dime to you for anything. You should pay me. You should pay me for the loss I took for the last 19 years paying tribute to some rednecks from some Trump head MAGA rednecks from the Midwest the really white people. I'm not considered white out here. I'm considered somebody that's a gadfly, a shit stirrer, a carpetbagger, somebody that needs to be put in the rearview mirror. Okay? I understand the social engineering that took place here 20 years ago. It's graft. I saw it for 30 years in the airline business. I'm going to tell you a story, and when they did it 20 years ago, they did it with the idea that we're here in Buckeye. We know everybody from Buckeye. If this ever gets found out, if anybody ever finds out what we did, forgiveness is easier to get than permission. Now I'm looking for a little bit of that from the HOA. I'm looking for a little bit of forgiveness for what I had to do over here to keep golfers out of my yard. Where that dirt pile was I could have put a revolving gate on there and made money in admissions. If I would have charged a few pennies for every golfer that came over, I'd be rich. Because that's the first place they enter my yard. And I'm going to send you a video here soon of me getting attacked by a golfer. Doing exactly what I said they do. He came up, walked my property line. I had my video camera out. He stepped over the line and assaulted me. Because I was there with a video camera. He couldn't walk into my yard and get a golf ball. He was up here walking along my property line like everybody does from Buckeye, knowing that there might be golf balls up in those yards. We might have some California golfers out here with a little bit of class that understand that when you hit a ball in somebody's yard, you don't go after it. You write it off. I hit a shitty shot. I'll accept it and move on. I'll leave the ball up there. I'm not going to trample this guy's civil rights by trampling on his golf course, on his property. One last thing is I took human factors at 2 different airlines. And human factors is what we all have. I took human factors class at United for a week. 8 hours a day for a week, sitting in a group session, and everybody in United Airlines that year, every employee in United Airlines, 90,000 employees, went through that same training. Human factors. Human factors are like laziness is a human factor. Deceit, dishonesty, jealousy, contempt, ego. I'm a victim of human factors out here of the people on the HOA board. One of the big things in human factors we talked about was groupthink. Groupthink, where you're supposed to have a group of independent thinkers that when they vote, they're supposed to vote independently on any issue. But we have, and I consider everybody on the HOA board for Sundance, I don't think one of them have any engineering behind them. So when I go in with engineering issues about my house and Tract A, it goes right over their head. And they have a charismatic leader, they did with Charlie Waters, that ran the show. He ran the show. If he said, let's do this, everybody followed him. He was the Pied Piper. Nobody had any individual thought on the HOA. And the board members of the HOA, the first 5 or 6 board members for the HOA were put there by Meritage. Until Meritage sold all 1,100 houses in this development, they had control. And they didn't start putting board members on the board. They put them on piecemeal, one at a time. And the first time they had a board member put on the board, it was Charlie Waters. He was the first board member. Their number one, their franchise player. The franchise player. We're going to build the team around Charlie Waters. And the next 4 or 5 were all elected by Meritage. You see, every house that wasn't sold in the community that was still on the shelf as inventory, that house was a vote for Meritage. So they put about 5 people on the board. It was just like Trump stacking the Supreme Court. Now, if you really want to put a deal together, I'm planning on being in court on the 24th, on time. I am. That's what I'm going to do. Whatever the judge throws at me, it's going to be made public. I might even write a book about what this HOA in the town of Buckeye did to me over the years. I also got now a police record with the town of Buckeye that I'll take to my grave with me. It's a mug shot. I got arrested for missing a court date I never knew about. When I started walking on the easement, you have to understand, I'm from the East Coast. I was a Marine for 4 years. I've had all the brainwashing. I know what military chicken shit is. And I know what you did over here. This was graft. A flim-flam. And I knew I was paying tribute. So let's put a price tag until you and I can come up with a price tag for everything that I've lost over the years. I have a permanent cloud on the title of this house. It's a permanent encumbrance. I pay a water bill, utility bill to the town of Buckeye. That utility bill has a sewer component on it. I'm paying, because this town of Buckeye 20 years ago, along with the Meritage, decided they were going to draft my lot as the new drain above the lake on the golf course over here on the 6th hole. And that's exactly what happened. I was drafted. They tampered with the finished floor elevation. I can't fix this. This isn't a normal statute of limitations problem. For me to fix this problem with the sewer pipes, I have to physically raise the house 2.5 inches. And all the plumbing that goes to the street has to be raised 2.5 inches. I'm stuck with paying a sewer bill to the town of Buckeye, and I'm getting ripped off every time I pay it. Why? Because I can't sell my house, honestly, without telling somebody you got bad sewer pipes. If you plan on coming in here and throwing parties and living big, like some of these people from the Midwest, when they come in, they're the Yanker family. They're the Yanker family all winter long or during the season. They got people coming and going all winter long in and out of the house. All right? If you want to run that lifestyle, find another house. I'm trying to find a pilot out there, somebody who flew commercially for years, who understands minimum equipment list. They understand the culture of flying airplanes commercially. That some airplanes are, when they have a problem, they don't fix it right off. If the airplane has 3 and one of them goes down, the plane keeps flying. And it flies deferred for the one unit that's not working. And there's usually an operational component. Whenever you defer something in a logbook, you say to the pilot, this system isn't working, but you've got 2 other ones to back it up. But it means you have an operational issue. You have an operational issue. The instructions are there along with the MEL. Now I have to go out and find someone like that, a pilot who understands MEL and minimal equipment list, to buy this house. And I have to make it clear to him, if you want to live big and throw parties, last month I only used 2,000 gallons of water last month in my whole house. And I have landscaping and watering plants. And I only used 2,000 gallons. Most months it doesn't go over 3. Now, if I sell it to someone like that, a pilot, an ex-pilot, maybe he's a widow or he's single, and he lives my lifestyle. And the lady that lived, my girlfriend that lived here for 13 years on and off, she had the same lifestyle. She didn't throw parties. She was very careful. And one thing that I have to do, and I have to explain to any new buyer, put strainers over all your drains. Don't use your dishwasher. The dishwasher sometimes pumps an emulsion of crap, food and everything into your sewer system. Don't use it. Also, don't use your garbage disposal for the same reason. Keep the drains clear. Because the house was sabotaged 20 years ago by some redneck cowboys here in Buckeye who considered me an outsider, who considered me more or less racial profiling, who considered me a liberal Marxist communist. I don't even talk to my neighbors. I don't want anything to do with my neighbors. They're all from the Midwest. They're all Trump heads. Every one of them. MAGA Trump. And to think that I've been paying tribute to these MAGA Trump heads for 19 years in the form of having to go the long way to get on the golf course, not having an emergency ingress and egress for emergency vehicles, not being able to drive my golf cart over track day. How much? Let's try to put a price tag on that. And that my house is permanently, forever and ever, burdened with an encumbrance. An encumbrance is anything that burdens a property that affects the sale of it and affects its equity. I'm being bombarded. Now, Trevor, let's put a deal together. But it means getting somebody out here from the HOA to take pictures of my lot, come out, take all the pictures you want, go back, have a skull session with your HOA, figure out what you want on my lot, and then give me a document to sign. You come out with a plan. These plants are supposed to be put here. We want you to do this here, and we want you to do this here. Because if I flatten that corner and do exactly what you say and pay all the fines and pay your fees, in a few years, they can come back and say, well, you had trees there. You didn't. Come out here. Tell me what you want from my lot. I want out of Buckeye so bad. I've been trying to sell from this house for 10 years. And I can't do it honestly. And I can't fix what they did. This isn't statute of limitations. Statute of limitations may be like they put a bad roof on, it leaks. Well, it's been 2 years, you're going to have to eat it. You can fix the roof. Or you can fix a window. Or you can fix a door. I can't fix these sewer pipes unless I lift the house 2.5 inches. Now please, I'm planning on being in court next Thursday on time. If you want to put a deal together, you get somebody out here from the HOA and you come up with a plan for my lot. And you put it in writing so I can sign it and agree to it, and then give me a couple of months. We're going into the hottest days of the year. Give me a couple of months to correct this. Give me some latitude. Latitude. Let me have a little bit of forgiveness. You gave forgiveness to the people who screwed up Tract A. And it took you a year and a half to dig it out. And as far as letters, we'll close on the letters that I don't open and I send back. On the day that I got that $4,500 fine in Christmas of 2022, I'm not accepting I'm not going to accept any letter that isn't a return receipt, registered mail from the HOA. Since I've been kicked out of the HOA 6.5 years ago, you've been at war with me. I'm going to tell. I'll stop here. Like I said, I plan on being in court next Thursday. Hell, come higher, hell water. And anything that happens is going to be documented publicly. I'm going to let everybody know. Just like with this letter. It's a letter sent to you and this is document day or this is deadline day. I'm sending it to you. I'm offering to do whatever you want. But first of all, get somebody over here from the HOA with a little bit of civil engineering experience and have them look at me straight in the face and tell me that I'm the problem over here. I want them to look at that Grand Canyon at the end of Tract A and then tell me with a straight face that I'm the problem over here. That my little dirt pile that I put on the corner of my lot is more serious and worthy of $100 a day fine, while that Grand Canyon sits out at the end of an access easement and it's been there for 4 years. I also want that person to stand on my corner and look at where the tee boxes are and let their imagination go. I don't have to let my imagination go. I've been bombarded by interdiction and harassment fire from the HOA, from the golf course for 19 years. When I bought this house, I thought I was buying something that was mine and I took pride in it. And that's why I spent all the money and time fixing the drainage on my lot. I got 8 years of hard labor and a ton of money, thousands invested in fixing my lots so they would drain on the golf course. I corrected the sabotage that took place. I reversed the reverse engineering that took place. These lots above the lake were built to hold water by the local people who executed the plan. The plan was that every lot north of the lake was to drain onto the golf course. It didn't happen that way. Like I said, I'll see you in court. If you want to call me or get somebody over here with a camera and come up with a plan, I'll be glad to deal with the plan. And I've told you about the tree. And I don't take the tree, if you make me put a tree in the front yard, I'll probably start another 10 years of water leaks and problems with my watering system in the front yard is the old black cheap builder's special watering system. I had to correct a lot of leaks the last 5 or 6 years in the yard. I put down landscape fabric after I had to correct the leaks and I had to grade the lot to run onto so the water would run onto the street. I had to put a plumbing system with gutters and pipes near my stoop because my stoop would go underwater in a storm on the front door to get the water to the street. And when I got done with all that grading, all that piping, all that work, I graded the lot. I put down landscape fabric over everything. And then I covered the landscape fabric with crushed stone that wouldn't go through a 1/2-inch sifter. I haven't had to spray my lot for about 5 years. Whenever there's a weed, because it's sitting on top of the landscape fabric, if you see a weed that starts to grow, you go out there, you pull it up. If it has no root system. These are custom covered lots. Nobody I know in Sundance covers their lot like I do. Where they went, they graded it so that it made sure it went to the street or onto the golf course where it belonged. And then after grading it, I put down landscape fabric that had the pebbles and sand removed from it. I'm going to send this to you. This is my second statement. But like I said, either we come up with a deal, and we got to come up with a figure for all the things I did to my lot. How about we come up with a monetary figure for the solar panels I put on it? How about we put up a monetary figure for both of the air conditioning units that I installed? I probably got $4,000 worth of air conditioning, and I did $7,000, $8,000 worth of work installing them. How about the gutters I put on? How about all the money I spent on piping, water lines, contractors, hauling off dirt off my yard? Let's come up with a monetary value for that before I start paying your fees. You haven't done a thing. You haven't done a thing in 3 months except copy and print. My house is upside down. I'm so depressed. I haven't left the house in months. I'm kind of a recluse here. It makes me sick to even look at my neighbors. They're all MAGA Republicans that think that Trump is still president. You can walk down my street, knock on any door, and do a survey. Do you think Trump is still president? And they'll all say yes. If you go to a meeting, an HOA meeting, the first thing they do is they start out pledge allegiance to the flag. And justice for all. Makes me want to puke. There's no justice out here. This is MAGA, red hat, Republican, lowlife, uneducated, Midwest morons who have no appreciation for urbanization, for this highly sophisticated, complicated, documented urban plan that got out here 20 years ago. Thank you for listening. Like I said, this is going public, and anything that happens in court next week, it will all go public. Some people watch my videos, some people comment, some people give me favorable feedbacks. That's what motivates me, and I'm going to keep it up. And whatever happens in court next week is going to be documented on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Give me a call anytime. I suggest, since you haven't done anything for 3 months, and all the work has been on me, and the judge, I tried to explain to the judge that I can't do this. I'm not a lawyer. I need time to do all this. The judge blew me off so quick, right? No, you got plenty of time. And meanwhile, the judge knows that your job is done. Your job's done. You haven't had to do anything for 3 months. You haven't done a thing to earn your money for 3 months. How about getting in the car, coming out talking to me, bring one of your HOA people or architectural or even a civil engineer, and let's talk about the sophistication that went into the plan, this urban plan for this community. Maybe they can explain to me why there's a sign at the end of Tract A that says we can't drive golf carts onto Tract A. Why should we be the exception? Why are we the oxymoron? How come Tract H and Parcel 13 had been open to golf carts 24/7 since it opened 20 years ago? And over here, there's no explanation. Get one of your cowboys out here in Buckeye to come out and own this. The mayor, anybody from the mayor down, councilman, anybody that's a bigwig. All right, all you people that are making all these rules and taking money from Charlie Waters. Come out and own this. Man up. Thank me for my service and say, yeah, we didn't know who you were. We thought you were a person of color. That's why we did this to you. Okay? And we don't recognize urban plans. You expect us to make this place look like New York City. You're a leftist, Marxist, communist agitator in our midst, and we have to do everything we can. Fine you, put liens on your house, everything to try to get you in our rearview mirror. We don't want to deal with you. You're a communist. You think everything that's on the plat map should be here. You think you shouldn't have to pay tribute to people who want to bring their farm with them. You're exactly right, I do, and I'm going to keep this theme going. So either call me, make an offer, bring somebody out here, own this, own what you did to me. Own it. You've been laughing behind my back for 20 years. Now, somebody quit laughing, come out here, man up, and tell me that, yes, we did this to you on purpose. All right? I'll sell it to anybody. Give me a deal. All you got to do is give me a pardon for the $60,000 fine, drop all this stupid fees that you want to charge me, and I'll sell it cheap from the mayor on down. This is for everybody. The mayor of Buckeye and all your minions underneath you. I will sell it to any one of you who have the power to get rid of this fine. Give me a pardon. Forgive me for what I did. And let me get out of here. I've spent all but 2 months in the last 19 years, all but 2 months in Buckeye. I don't go to cool, nice places in the summer. And it really bothers me that snowbirds who aren't here living year round demand that no golf carts go by their house. They're not even here. They're not even here. They're part-time residents, but they've got track day closed 24/7 now, forever, to emergency vehicles and people who pay to maintain that track. We pay the water bill, the track is tax-free, we pay for the landscaping. And we're burdened with having to go the long way to the tee box on number 7. We have to go 400 or 500 yards to the west to go a mile to the east where the clubhouse is. The clubhouse might as well be the Pentagon, and I'm in a rice paddy in Vietnam. And people in Pentagon 12,000 miles away from me are making decisions over what I need in the rice paddy. Okay? Bring one of your Pentagon troopies from the HOA, the Architectural Committee, with you. Come out here and earn some money. Get in a car, come out, meet me, walk the lot with me, look at the building permit, and then look at the master CC&R plan for the community. And I want you to stand, like I said, where the mound is, and tell me if you think I shouldn't worry about golf balls going in my yard, or I shouldn't worry about people falling in that hole at the end of track day. Thank you for listening. I'm going to send this to all 3 parties again. Like I said, I'll see you in court. If you want, I don't want to go to court. I'm doing everything to offer it to. I'll do anything you want. But first of all, get somebody out here that's going to own up to this. Who's going to own it? Somebody out here that I can talk to and say, I'm being burdened here. I can't even come up with a figure for everything I've spent fixing this lot. I worked on it for 8 years. And to think that I've been denied the use of Tract A for 19 years is tribute. Tribute. Thank you for listening. Anybody out there in YouTube land that watches this video, don't ever get involved with an HOA. Please don't ever get involved with an HOA.